So soy, become the motor. Pro-designed ink wrist guards, always wear them. Blizz eyewear, design, flexibility, and value. Hey folks, and welcome to another SpikeBoarding spikeboarding tutorial. And here we see some spikeboarding around a small little flat circle. And we're seeing stand-up spike stroke and kubi cross. We're seeing a little bit of turning. We're seeing some 1/1. And we're seeing everything executed expert, a couple of hops left and right, a couple of switches, a couple of skateboard spike tosses, and all of this happens quickly and unencumbered and all synchronized because the athlete has practiced this time and time and time again, similar to swimming or cross-country skiing or inline skating. What you need to do first is go slow. So this video is all about dry land drills and how slow can you go. So first we become spikeboarding students as we would in anything else, and then from there we begin to pick it up. So folks, welcome to this class, and sharpen your pencils and off we go. So here we are on a little mound that you can find any place, and we're going to break down these strokes, and we're starting with a 1, 2, 3, 4 without loops at either end of our stroke. Notice how we're starting with that rear leg, and it's going 1, 2, 3, 4 very slowly, and we're not running, we're just stepping very slowly and engaging the stroke. And here's a little slow motion so that you can see the dynamism of the hands as well. So notice how that top hand is rotating, and notice how that upper shoulder is following through, and it goes straight back, and the vector line always goes back at the top. Turn around and then just gently march down the berm, and keeping your arm at 90 degrees as much as you can. And since this is a little steeper hill, instead of coming back and stand up spike, you can stand up spike down hills, but coming back with one arm as well. Now we're going to just try the other side. Notice how we're starting the count with the rear leg, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And here we're showing you how the beginning of the stroke starts, and then it just slides through. Watch the hands, that's the top of the stroke, and then it's going to power through, and that's the end of the stroke. And notice how the hands need to be dynamic and change positions. So if you don't change positions, that spike tip is not going to be where it needs to be. So stand up spike to one side all the way to the top, and then stand up spike to the other side to get warmed up, and you can do it on the 4 count. So that's the top of the stroke. Notice where the hands are. That's the end of the stroke. Notice how the hands have totally changed. And then as you rotate back, it's going to allow that vector line to stay to the rear. And 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And that's where the stroke starts, and that's where it finishes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keeping that vector line totally parallel to what would normally be the board underneath you. And then back down we go, keeping the arm at 90 degrees. That's a really tight 90 that we got there, and just a gentle trot, and keeping that spike to the rear. So constant activation of the stroke helps, especially later when you get into your momentum strokes. And here we can really see that shoulder, that leading shoulder on your right side is driving that stroke, and notice how parallel that spike is staying to what would be the board underneath you. So the top of the stroke, and the hands follow through. And notice how you're spiking your square and swinging your square. The arms are making a square, and then they swing back, then they spike through. They swing back, and they spike through. Swing back, spike through. It's a square that you make, and you're engaging your core and your lats. And so people, you really need to get these dry land drills done. Do them 20, 30 minutes every single day, and it's going to help you on the board quite a bit. And here's just a demonstration of the spike being tossed and what you need to do to get it over. And also we're carve switching as we switch the skateboard spike, as we toss the skateboard spike left and right. So we're going to break this down a little bit, and you want to get the hands very close to each other and toss the spike from one hand to the other, always on the silicone. always on the silicone. The engagement is always made with the arm at 90 degrees formation, and that was switching on the ones. This is 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. We still haven't added the loops, so we still have a very definitive finish and end. But here we're starting to accelerate a little bit. Is it almost time? Because what we're going to do is remove that 1, 2, 3, 4 and keep everything constant. Right now this is just 1, 2, 3, 4 still. And we really want to show you that you're not running. So you really want to slow down this 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how the toes and the heels are just about meeting at the same place as we trot. So you need to not begin to run faster than your stroke, or you will find it very challenging to get that stroke done. So you're taking these tiny little baby steps. Again, this is just an these dryland drills exaggerate what it is that you're going to need to do when you're on the board. And again, as you spike back, keep that vector line to the rear, especially when you're one-handed. It's more challenging to get it to spike forward. You don't want to spike forward at all. So when you do one-handed, that really helps. Here's the stand-up spike, and here it is without counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Just constant. There's a loop at the top and there's a loop at the bottom. So that's more or less how the stand-up spike stroke is going to look. When you're on the board, there's not going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just going to be a perpetual, constant cadence of the arms. So really work that 1, 2, 3, 4 till that begins to feel comfortable on both sides, and switching, and then get back finally, or actually move forward up to adding the loops, and there are the loops. So there's no beginning and there's no end. You're just plopping the feet one after the other and executing the stroke. So boom, boom, boom. Notice how that vector line's always staying to the rear. It doesn't do anything if it comes forward. And that means that the hands are going to need to be dynamic and rotate over the top of that skateboard spike, or you won't be able to do that. And so these dryland drills will help quite a bit. And then we're coming down and we're tossing, so you can begin to toss your spike as you come down the hill, or you can do these uphill as well. No problem at all. But remember, the hands get nice and close, and then the tip comes around the front of the board, and then here we are doing these with no loops, and we're doing them on the ones. So we're switching on the ones. So you have to look at the tip, make sure that it clears the front of your toes, which would be the board when you were riding, and that's when you can engage. So one cadence on the ones is always the hardest, most challenging way to do any cadence drill, because you're breaking the momentum and you're beginning on a new side completely. So you might want to start on the 2s and the 3s and then go to the 1s. Here we're coming down the hill. Just wanted to slow this up a little bit so you can really see that 90-degree engagement. We have a tendency to stretch out that arm. You want to correct that constantly. And of course here we're doing the stand-up spike dryland stroke, again with loops at the bottom and the top. We're bending at the midsection and driving that square in the core and the lats. We're not powering with the arms. So if you can begin to do this on dry land very well, synchronized and comfortably, you'll be able to do it on a board much more simply. There's a kind of a little bigger extension on the arm. There's a back toss. You can try a back toss when your backside is opened up. You can use back tosses. It's a good time to practice them. It's not that functional out on the open road. It requires a little more power. And here you see the vector line. What we're speaking about is that that vector line is going to the rear. And there it is with a little bit of a switch, a step forward and a switch if you were on the board, and on the ones. So you might want to try those as well. So now we moved on to one arm, and notice how we're still dropping the upper body onto the stroke. We're trying to keep that arm at 90 degrees. Notice how dynamic that hand is. That hand is really opening up at the end. It's not a, see out right there, you just saw it open up, and it opens up right there. And the hands have to be dynamic, and I hope you're seeing that, because the hand just doesn't stay there on a grip. It almost acts like a little hinge, and it's rotating nearly 30-40 degrees as you power through this stroke toward the end of the stroke. And there's a nice little trot straight down, 90 degrees with a toss, and we're spiking to both sides and switching on the ones there. and you can practice that in any cadence quantity that you want. Here's the top of the stroke, and you can see that the hand is still gripping toward the middle phase, and then we'll see how it opens up. Notice how that opened up, and you're on the index finger, not the index finger, with the thumb, and there went the toss straight over. And there's the toss again, straight over. Notice how close the hands are getting. The hands get very close. It's a small little toss and then an unthread. And the other hand grabs the spike on the silicone, and then you begin to unthread the skateboard spike, and you clear the front. Make sure you clear the front. And once you clear the front, you're on the other side. Bang. Then you can add the power. There's the toss again, and bang, clear. And then look at that rear hand on that index finger and that thumb. It's very dynamic. If you stay with a grip, you're not going to be able to execute this Kubi cross stroke as you need to. And there is obviously the hand doesn't change as much when it doesn't go down quite as far. There's a rear toss, not too often seen, so we're just showing you this so you see what it looks like, and you might like it in big open roads. Obviously there's people behind you, you can't do it, it's a front toss. So you want to practice your skateboard spike toss from side to side quite a bit, and just push it forward as if it was unthreading and you were tossing it like a rod straight up toward the sky, and then pull it out, angle it forward, angle it back. And here what we're going to do is do a lot of tosses and show you how that works, and also show you a connection to the ground, and then we're going to show you some where we don't connect. But we're also going to begin to show you that high toss. Notice how this toss is high, and depending on the pavement and what's going on with the rest of your balance equation, you may end up doing high tosses. And you can do them low and medium or high. And this is almost like a handover. Right now this is a high handover of a skateboard spike. And really pay attention and watch the registration of the tip. You really want to watch that tip, make sure it clears the board. And this toss is also going to be connected with a bit of a double angle. So there's you're going to angle up once and then angle it back, and then bang, a very defined angle forward. Well, here we go again. As you see, it comes forward and it angles forward and then back, and forward and then back. So when you do this guy, you know you're going to clear the front of your board every single time. And this drill is happening without spike engagement, so it's more fluid, and it's more as if you were on the board, because that's where it's going to happen. Once you spike and you're dry landing, it's a bit of an interruption, because when you spike there's nothing going on. So here is the one-armed action, and as you can see, that arm is staying pretty close to 90 degrees, as much as you want. You don't want to follow through and straighten it all out, because there's not going to be any power there. So this athlete's engaging the core and the lat at this moment. Yeah, of course there's a little bit of arm happening, but the most power is coming out of the core and the lat. And notice how that skateboard spike is over to the right hand side of that shoulder, and it's parallel to the board. Here we are back to a little bit of stand-up spike again on the trot, and then back up in the upper body Kubi cross, slowed down a little bit so that you can see it, and on the ones. So the ones are the most challenging, so you might want to start with 2s and 3s just to get the momentum going, and then bring back to the ones. Once you really got 2s and 3s down, you can head towards 1s and then synchronize that. And you'll see how delicious all this is as a concentration and focus exercise, just to begin get these things synchronized. Now here's a safety turnaround. This is the way you want to turn around whenever you're around a good many people. Obviously if you're in a park and you're not surrounded by anyone, that's fine, but when the tips go up, you have to be careful of everybody around. So when you have a skateboard spike in your hand, you want to always be saying, where's my spike tip, as soon as you see people. So now we're going to trot around this park a little bit, and once you've gotten these drills down, you're going to see how this actually begins to work more as an intermediate dry land drill. And intermediate and advanced should always consider doing a good 20-30 minutes, maybe at least twice a week or every other day, or if you do this every day, it's really good for you. So also we're going to begin to work on pavement, because ultimately that is where the skateboard spike is going to be functioning. And now we've left all the little beginner dry land drills, and we're going to begin to execute on the trot with everything going. So here's a really good look at the backside, and you can see that you want to keep that spike parallel to what would be the board. For every degree that it goes out to the side, you're going to lose power. Notice how that leading shoulder on that left side is driving through. So you want to drive through, and take a look at these hands, people. Look how they move. So tremendous amount of movement in the hands. And so to bring that skateboard spike up, that top hand needs to stay loose and rotate over the top. And after the end phase, that grip hand needs to open up the index finger and just bring that shaft back forward, almost parallel to the ground. So you don't want a forward catch in this sport. There's absolutely nothing to do with that. This is replicating skiing on land. Got to get that vector line to push all of that harnessed power out of the core and the lat and go backwards. And notice how the head will stay down a little bit. You want to try to keep your head up, but you'll have a tendency to drop your head on the stroke. With your beginner, try to keep that head up so you see where you're going. So in the beginning you want to spike and then look up, spike, look up, spike, look up. Really just want a little bit of peripheral vision toward the bottom, and then keep your eye on the road. So spike down, notice how there's that square, spiking the square, and we're driving with that leading shoulder. Leading shoulders and that leading hip is rotating around so that you can keep that shaft parallel to the board. If your shoulder is not leading, you're not going to be able to keep that shaft parallel to the board. You're going to be losing power. And of course, then you just begin to do the combinations on the trot. So you're doing one arms, and it even helps a little bit if you drive that leading shoulder even with your one arms. So remember, you're going to be on a board at 45, your feet are going to be at 45 degrees. You're just trotting around these little high, low side, and you can do this on pan flat if you wanted, and try to keep the cadence. If you speed up a little bit, keep your arm cadence in relation to your trot cadence. But this is not running. Don't be running. This is all just trotting, and the idea is to get synchronized with your upper body stroke. Again, notice that leading shoulder on that right side is driving that stroke, and also notice how that arm is staying at 90 degrees. So you're not extending out toward the arm. There's very little power at the end of that stroke. You just want to do a return and get back into that power phase where all the power is going to keep carrying your speed that you're generating. And as you can see, we're just going from stand-up spike to what would be the Kubi cross, which is the essence of the sport, with skateboard spike toss in between, and you're just tossing from one hand to the other, really nice and close, registering that tip clearing and making sure that you don't add power until your spike is on the other side. Just a little bit of slow motion, and there is a connector stroke, and we're Kubi crossing and then stand-up spiking, and Kubi crossing and stand-up spiking, and that's how it would look exactly on a board. And if you can do this on dry pavement, and look at that trot, it's just a tiny little trot. This isn't running, folks. Don't break out into big run, but you'll notice this will be an effort for you, and you're gonna sweat a little bit, and it's gonna get going. So here's a little more slow motion on these hands. So watch this a million times. Your hands should be replicating the same action. So a rotation over the top, and then a dynamic finger exchange toward the rear on that grip hand. And just really be mindful of that 90 degree of the arms. No arm extensions at the bottom nor at the top. Just spike your square, swing your square, spike your square, swing your square. And the square should remain focused when you're doing these one arms too. You're sort of spiking at 90 degrees, so the square is interrupted. You're kind of like spiking a half a square and then swinging half a square back. So really stay focused on those lats. The lats are really so crucial in cross-country skiing. You're really driving quite a bit with the back, and you can see that here from this athlete from that top shot. And here's some turnarounds. That's the way you really want to turn around neutrally. Make a habit of that more than just if you're out in big open wide places. This is the way you want to turn around. This is a safety turn. This is how you want to always turn around, and this is always going to keep everybody safe around you. And when you ever see people, always consider, where's my spike? There's people, where's my spike? And when you turn around and you practice these turnaround drills over and over and over again, when you stop, you will turn around holding the neutral position on the carbon fiber and the shaft vertical, because we must turn around and keep everybody safe. So practice these drills over and over. You can practice this turnaround drill all by itself, and we actually will begin to do workouts like that and get everybody to practice turning around safely. So that's the safety turnaround position. Notice how that shaft is vertical, up and down, and here we're going to show you how you do not want to turn around. So if you're turning around like this is not the way that you can be turning around. There's no function there whatsoever. So if you find yourself doing that 1 or 2 times, then go back and practice until it's second nature to turn around holding the neutral position and a vertical shaft. So now we're going to get into a little long section here on how to actually go into the safety 1 and the safety 2 positions and sliding the hand between the silicone and the carbon fiber. So that you just saw was a slide onto the carbon fiber, back onto the silicone, and then we're spiking along. Let's break this down into slow motion. I'm going to slide onto the carbon fiber, go into the safety 1 position, and then turn it around, slide back onto the silicone and back into our stroke, and we're spiking right along. So the safety 1 position is used when we cannot make it through a gap, and we point the spike straight through the gap and then follow behind it, and also when we absolutely need to know where that spike is in our mind's eye so that we can see it and know where it is if there's people around. So we're going into the safety 1 position quite a bit. We'll cover that with some live video later. Actually, you can see in a lot of our videos when we're around people and things slow down, we go into the safety 1 position quite a bit, and this is how you do it. You're sliding, so you need to begin to slide and practice sliding between the neutral position and between the silicone. So sliding your skateboard spike is a skill set that you're going to need to learn to practice. So watch these sections very closely. Notice how that neutral carry, when you're carrying the carbon fiber, it's right in the middle. It's a weightless kind of position. It's kind of like when you move a refrigerator, you get it in that sweet spot, angled. It's not heavy at all. So the neutral carry is when you are right there. You're carrying it. It's almost weightless, right in the middle, and you want to be able to slide in between your neutral carry and your silicone seamlessly, and that's what's going to allow you to very quickly get into your safety 1 and your safety 2 position that we're going to show here soon. This is the safety 1 that we're covering. We're going to cover it over and over so that you can watch it. You're spiking right along on your silicone, and off you go, enjoying yourself, spiking and spiking. And then whenever you need a safety 1 position, you can go straight into it. And so here comes a little more slow-mo for it. So it's a slide to the neutral position and then just a rotation with the spike tip forward where you can see it. When you want to get out of it, you just bring it back into the neutral position and slide back onto the silicone and straight back into either your cubic cross or your stand-up spike stroke, and off you go. So we're going to show this a bunch more times so that you can really see it. And also notice how the skateboard spike is living parallel, perfectly parallel to the athlete. So you want the function and the safety of the skateboard spike is all the same. So here we are again, showing this slide. Really practice this slide all by itself on the trot. If you can slide between your neutral carry and your silicone, that's what you want to be able to do. Notice there's a tiny little pickup. Just pick it up just a little bit, and then you can make that slide effortlessly and seamlessly. And also practice stopping and turning, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to have some abrupt stops on the board. You want to be practicing how you go to that neutral carry. Now we're going to show you the safety 2 position. The safety 2 position is executed by first going to the neutral carbon fiber center and then dropping the spike, letting it slide through your hands, and then up against your tricep. So this is really good when you're passing people in windy situations. So then the spike can't catch any wind because it's up against your body, and it will remain right behind your tricep. And of course, to get that tip down again, what you want to do is let it slide down, as you're about to see. As it slides down, then when you drop it on the back side, it's short, and then slides straight back onto the silicone. And there you can see it in slow motion being executed. This is your safety 2. And of course, it's always parallel to you. And here we're showing, of course, the sliding between silicone and neutral. So, and there's some switching that's going on right here. We're going to just show a little more switching. We've shown this before, and this is what we're going to close out with here on this video. So we're going to show some skateboard spike toss without engagement. So when we don't engage, it actually feels a little more like it would on the board because you're not abruptly stopping. And this is toss on the ones. Notice the hands are staying at 90 degrees. The silicone is getting super close to one hand another. You're unthreading, you're clearing the board, and then you're just drifting back. And here we're adding that accentuated angle where you know when you toss it forward, you come up forward, accentuate that angle, and you know you're going to clear your front every time. So folks, we hope you have enjoyed this video. We certainly enjoyed making it, and please do your dryland drills as much as you can, and don't be in a hurry to get onto the board. Take your time, and remember, how slow can you go? And dryland drills are going to rule the day as far as your skill set on the board. So remember, if you want to go and begin to pick up some speed and go faster, you must go slow, and you must do your dryland drills, guys. So spike hard, spike often, do your dryland drills often, and enjoy SpikeBoarding. If you have any questions, definitely call us or email us at info@spikeboarding.com or 917-566-3386. See you at the next one. So soy, become the motor. Pro-designed ink wrist guards, always wear them. Blizz Eyewear, design, flexibility, and value.